season, and it seems like it is. So Jasmine Ike getting her first start in the 2024 campaign in the midfield, and we are off here at Kagan Stadium. The number 7 Stanford Cardinal hosting the number 1 Duke Blue Devils. Stanford in the pink. It's breast cancer awareness, giving out pink captain's bands today to anybody in the stadium. We mentioned it's a sellout here for this big ACC matchup, and it'll be another sellout on Sunday when University of North Carolina comes to town. And
what
right
a
off
weekend, right? To have Duke and UNC pay a visit. Soccer fans here not always getting a chance to see that combo here on the farm.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a treat for soccer fans. Right off the bat, we're getting a little back and forth. Stanford in control of the ball, though. And mentioned Duke sitting at number 1. The first time Duke has been ranked number 1 nationally. How do you think that weighs on them? Do you think it does?
Look, it has to. And even if it's one of those things that's going unspoken in the locker room or in the huddle, how can you not think about that? We also talked to Coach Robbie Church about the idea that this being the last year. Has he personally kind of stopped to smell the roses, if you will? He kind of downplayed that a bit and, certainly said, look, you go to some of these places for the last time, Clemson, some places that evoke a lot of memories. You can't help but take a walk and look around a little bit. But I'm sure you're trying to keep the main thing here. If you get too tied up in the emotions of the ranking or the final season, you get away from what you're trying to do. And when you're number 1, when you're 9-1, you have a real chance to do something special here. I'm sure there's a lot of work being spent on focusing on the product on the field.
Nia Harrison will take this throw for the Stanford Cardinal. And Duke will control. That's Mia Oliaro, number 15. She'll play it back to her center back. They're swinging around Cameron Roller now.
Stanford's done well scoring early and often in both the first and second halves. And again, from the common sense department, right? Every coach likes to do that, but Paul Ratcliffe did talk about just what that can provide from a confidence standpoint, kind of take some of the air out of the balloon here to get going early.
Ella Haas working on Nia Harrison. Haas takes it line, and she'll win the first corner of the night for Duke. Ella Haas, somebody we've heard a lot about as well. She's one of the 4 transfers that Duke brought in that, of course, Robbie Church, head coach of Duke Blue Devils, has spoken so highly about, and we'll go quickly here for the Blue Devils. The cross, back in the middle from Lynch. Stanford trying to force Duke back out. Nice ball inside, and it's tracked down well by Harrison, who will just see it out.
And then conversely, Duke trying to put something together there on an early attack here. We mentioned their offensive struggles a season ago. For that returning group, and of course for Coach Church to see the goals come in waves here the first 10 matches, what a relief that has to be to know, yes, we can put the ball the back of the net, we can do it with regularity, and now try to do it against one of the best teams in the country.
Duke will take control once again. These teams, they play very similarly. Neither of these teams is a counter-attacking team. They want the ball, they want possession, and they want to make you work on defense. It'll be quite the chess match today. Duke now trying to work that ball inside. They do so. Laguerre just trying to find Lynch in the middle. Cleared off, but not quite enough by Bouma, picked up by Kohler, and she's dispossessed in the middle. Duke seemingly in full control in their attacking half right now. Here's Haas. Haas beats 1, beats 2, but just too long of a touch. No, she gets the cross off. Calls for offside will be no good. Duke goes up in the 3rd minute.
What an opening for the Blue Devils here right out of the gate. And you talked about beating one defender, then maybe not beating a second. But Stanford maybe took a little bit of their foot off the gas there defensively that allowed Duke to slide inside and create something across the way.
Well, we heard how dangerous Ella Haas is on that left wing, what she can create, and we just got to see her speed. We're actually going to take a look at this to see if it did go out of bounds. The referee will jog over. But there's a good picture of what Duke can do. This is what they've been so good at all year. They've got the talent, they've got the speed, and we just got on full display Ella Haas's speed and her soccer IQ.
And currently, as called, that's a goal for Maggie Graham, the graduate student out of Atlanta. That'd be her 6th, but as you noted, it is under review currently.
So we'll take a look at it. We cannot see the replay that the refs are looking at, and we do not have a great vantage point for you. We're very similar to what you're looking at with the camera view, so we're pretty much midfield. So we can't tell you whether we thought it looked like it went over or not. But on the flip side, obviously, incredible work to come out strong from the Duke Blue Devils. But Stanford, a bit of a miscue, and you can see them sorting it out here defensively. Nia Harrison and Allie Montoya both got beat by the same ball on the same runner. And that's a miscue for them on this right side.
It's confirmed. Well, how about that? So they go to review, confirm that score, and you mentioned Stanford huddling up. That is a jarring way for this to start for the home team. Duke on the board here, less than 4 minutes into the action, and you were right talking about the two defenders that got beat. I really think as that second defender, Haas pushed past.
Goodness. Here we go, one more time. Can you believe it? The Duke Blue Devils and Maggie Graham once again, 2 goals within less than a minute, puts the Duke Blue Devils up by 2.
An absolutely stunned crowd here at Kagan to watch Duke rip off 2 goals in the opening 4:07. And for the Blue Devils, their 10th straight game with a goal in the first half, make it now 2. They go in front 2-0. And the Cardinal out of sorts here defensively. Bad turnover, and Duke takes immediate advantage.
I mean, stunned crowd, and I think we can say a stunned Stanford Cardinal team. That's a mistake that you make when you are stunned because you just gave up a goal that you haven't recovered from mentally. That was a mental lapse for the Stanford Cardinal, and one that, frankly, we haven't seen all year.
How about Maggie Graham? 2 goals to open things up here, opportunistic. And Stanford is going to have to really find a way to settle down. Again, the one silver lining here of the goals coming this early, there is a plenty of time left, but they've got to kind of come together here as a group and try and slow things down, try and get into their offense a little bit.
We talked about the defenses and how great they are, and we mentioned the explosiveness of Duke's offense, but even this is certainly more explosive than we had ever anticipated. Maggie Graham, we got to check some NCAA data and see if that's the fastest brace in NCAA women's soccer history, because I'm sure it certainly has to come close. She's a 2-time captain for Duke. She was captain last year. And again this year in her graduate year. She's started and played every single game for the Blue Devils. She had 5 goals and 4 assists coming into this game. Now, of course, sits on 7 goals and 4 assists. She scored the game winner at University of North Carolina for Duke's first ever win at North Carolina. And here come the Blue Devils once again. Walters. Farrah Walters taking it down the line. The junior from Arizona will lay it off. Shot from the top of the box is blocked, and that's good job from the freshman, Lizzie Boama. And we might see a card here. There it is. First yellow card of the game issued to number 7, Cameron Roller. Or excuse me, number 17, Nikki Chico.
You mentioned Graham on the offense there for Duke. Came in, tied for the lead in goals on this Duke team with Mia Minestrella. Now, of course, on her own with 7 goals on the season, adding those 2 early.
We just got a little taste as well as of what freshman Lizzie Boama can do for the Cardinals. She's got incredible pace back there. She's also quite the goal scorer, and a nice flick on. Coming out of her goal for her first touch is Freeman for the Duke Blue Devils. 5th-year local to the Bay Area, Leah Freeman in goal for the Blue Devils. Out of Berkeley, California, and actually somebody that Stanford are relatively familiar with since she transferred from University of Oregon, played against Stanford in her Pac-12 days.
Some tremendous ties to the Bay Area for this Duke team, talking with their staff pregame, and some of the local ties, as you mentioned, and then the Blue Devils travel well. Tailgate outside of Kagan here for Duke fans, expecting a lot of alums in the Bay Area to show up. So there's definitely some blue in the house here tonight to cheer on the Blue Devils.
Haas with the flick to Lynch. Back to Haas, and we're already seeing how dangerous Ella Haas can be on this left flank. Transfer from Northwestern. She's a graduate student. She'll spend just 1 year playing for the Blue Devils. making up those 4 transfers that we've spoken about that Robbie Church speaks so highly of and says just fit so seamlessly into this Duke Blue Devils team. Or is dangerous. Again, play back to the keeper, but it's handled by Craig. Ella Haas, who we just mentioned on this left-hand side. Mia Oliaro, who came from UNC. Hannah Bibar, who I'm sure we will talk about, sitting in that central midfield, really controlling the game, came from Harvard. And then Farrah Walters from Santa Clara.
Just doing a little research, you'd posed the question, fastest consecutive goals. Close, but not quite there. 28 seconds, the NCAA record out of University of Minnesota Duluth. That's a very brisk internet search, so that might not be 100% accurate, but we know that we did not see the record here tonight.
Let's see, do we know exactly the seconds that that goal was scored, or that both of them were scored? Stanford seems to be getting their feet back under them, throwing from Harrison to the freshman Kohler.
And I should note that's to start a match, so we'll have to look to see time between 3:53 to 4:07. That's quick.
Duke really doing to Stanford what they've actually been doing to a bunch of other teams. Stanford always coming out strong. 6 of Stanford's last 18 goals have come within 6 minutes of either the start of the first half or the second half. Perhaps Duke got that scouting report and decided to come out even stronger. Here's Jasmine Ike on the ball. Getting her first time in midfield. The midfielder of the year last year. Unselfishly filled in for the Stanford Cardinal everywhere. Stanford trying to build out of the back. Brandt to Harrison. Harrison possibly with more time than she thought she had. A dangerous ball into the middle for Buta, who's dispossessed. Haas will keep it in for the Blue Devils. And that's good control there. And you see Devin Lynch, number 6, so calm on the ball. The thing we haven't talked about yet for the Duke Blue Devils is the amount of injuries that they actually accrued at the beginning of the season. 4 key players going down with injuries. 4 key players that they were also expecting so much production out of.
Kat Rader, Bailey Brewster, Elle Piper, and the freshman Lauren Martino. Martino coming in so highly recruited, the top high school recruit that elected to play college. Doesn't get a chance to really get going here in her freshman season. But someone like Kat Rader, you go back, 12 goals as a freshman, right? Such a productive player on offense. And again, they haven't really missed a beat. They've plugged in these players. The transfers have made such a huge impact, and they've kept rolling out to 9-1, and this epic start here up 2-0.
Yeah, we talked so much with Robbie Church about what's changed since last year, and obviously you mentioned the transfers. That's a good drop off there. Thomas found her fellow freshman Kohler, and Kohler seemed like she had Ike streaking in, but just a miscue. Elise Evans will chase it down, and Stanford will maintain control. And just to finish that thought, Robbie Church talked about really what changed from last year, and of course it was the transfers, but it's also been the fact that some of these players that needed to step up this year had a year under their belt, and they were able to actually grow into their role, and they've stepped up in such a huge way. He said they had a huge spring where they refocused on their values, and it's made a big difference.
Yeah, everyone that came back kind of agreed that last season couldn't happen again. Couldn't really pinpoint the offensive challenges. Really was surprised at their inability to score last year, but knew that it had to change. You hit on it, made some proper adjustments, got some key experience, even though last year was the first year since 2014 they hadn't made the NCAAs. They come back from all of that, and it's such a refocused group, and you're seeing the product now on the field.
Duke in control.
Also, if you're the Blue Devils here, again, not that you're going to suddenly start playing risky. There's still plenty of time left, but what confidence it gives you on the road to make the long trip. This is the first of 2 in the Bay Area. They have Cal over the weekend. To jump out to this 2-0 lead here has to really ease some of the tension of how are we going to try and chip away at a Stanford team that, not to mention, beat this Duke team 4-0 here last year.
These two teams are no strangers to each other, like you just mentioned. They've played each other a total of 12 times. Stanford with 9 wins, Duke with 2, and there's been 1 draw. Now here comes Jaden Thomas for the Stanford Cardinal, but you mentioned, even you can see from that record, Stanford have been dominant in that. Duke, something special about this year perhaps for the Duke Blue Devils and their last season for head coach Robbie Church, who's in his 24th season. He announced in the summer before this year started that this would be his last, and he says he has no regrets. He's feeling good about his choices.
Yeah, has not felt like, oh, I wish I was coming back. He really wanted to make sure that the future was set up right. He was very, very happy about that. Kieran Hall will take over as the head coach next year. That was really important to him to get his staff elevated, accomplish that goal, and feels good. How fitting it would be, right? If, from a poetic standpoint, the way you might write it for a movie, that this final season for him goes the way that it goes right now.
Absolutely. Lizzie Boama showing off her talent on the ball and what she can do with the ball at her feet. Stanford Cardinal, let's see, 13 minutes in, they'll take this throw. What do you think needs to happen here for the Stanford Cardinal? Is it just a matter of refocusing?
You know, it's one of those things in this sport, you've got to figure it out while you're out there, right? There's not really a chance to kind of huddle up and catch your breath a bit, and it has to be so jarring. This doesn't happen to them, not this season, but hardly ever, to have someone attack the way that Duke did to score 2 goals early. And so this is really going to, I think, test their mental fortitude. First things first, shore up your defense, which you saw that initial kind of huddle, and then the second goal came. And so really trying to take some time to feel like they've locked that down, get back to some of their principles that have been so strong here, not let Duke get in behind them.
Miscue there, just trying to trap it was Ella Haas, but she'll catch up to it. Harrison 1v1 with Haas, and Haas will just go back there. Devin Lynch now. Lynch to B-Bar, back to Lynch, and across into the middle, headed Evans to Ike, and Ike helps it along to Jaden Thomas, and Stanford will move their lines up.
You know, and it seems silly, but you get a few clears. It's not a big thing in the grand scheme of looking at stats, but it starts to build a little confidence. Okay, we're not letting Duke do whatever they want to do, and now do you start to translate that into some of your offense? Can you get something going? You mentioned counterattack, not necessarily their bag, but can they start to turn something around here offensively?
And getting some of these players on the ball is a huge part of that. Here's Andrea Kitahata leading the team in points and goals, getting a cross off to Montoya. Not just Kitahata, but you saw Mia Buta really started that. Mia Buta has not been able to find space and time on the ball. Buta, number 8, sitting in the middle, just amping up her team right now. And, I mean, her name also came out of Paul Ratcliffe's mouth when we talked to him. She has been having an incredible season in the center mid. For the Stanford Cardinal, no surprise, she was number 82 on Top Drawer's Top 100 preseason to watch list. There were 5 total Stanford Cardinal. Amazingly, she was ranked the lowest of all of them. And that'll just tell you something about the team. And now time and space in the middle, opting for the shot, was Duke's Mia Oliaro, and it's no trouble there for Haley Craig. She'll scoop it up. But Mia Buta, just to come back to that, she sits in that defensive center mid position wearing number 8, and she has not had time on the ball. If you want to control the ball, your defensive center mid needs to have some time on the ball. You need to allow her to get on it, turn, find space to either dribble or play that ball where it needs to go.
And we've talked so much about Duke and what they've done offensively, but credit their defense here, the way they've been able to limit anything Stanford's trying to do. To your point, possession, controlling the ball, setting up their offense. Stanford has not been able to get into any sort of rhythm on offense as well.
Long ball here to Ike. Ike's one of those players that has, I'll call it sneaky speed. It might not look like she's moving as fast as she's moving, but she is moving. She's as fast as any of them, and Stanford will take control of this throw and try to keep it in their attacking half. Lizzie Boama now dispossessed, and Duke will take over. Give her right back to Stanford. Buta. Miscue gets it right back to Elise Evans, and this, you can feel the Cardinals starting to settle down a little bit. This is what we call, they're trying to figure it out, right? They're trying to see, okay, I thought that was on. It seems like that got closed down a little faster than I thought. Let's pull it back. Let's pull it back to our center back, maybe swing it around. This is them trying to figure out where those holes are.
You know, you come in with a plan, right? It does not go your way, and now you find yourself, you're out on stage in front of the audience, and you got to write the play on the fly and hope you can figure it out by Act 2.
That's the beauty of the beautiful game, right? Duke just looking like they did not miss a step from that Louisville game, and a beautiful ball into goal scorer Graham, who's already got 2, tries the cross, not cleared off quite enough. B-Bar with a beautiful ball out wide. Graham with a cross. Montoya will send it out, and B-Bar will send it over the top of the goal. Stanford looking a little frantic again on defense. Duke, you notice how much time they have when they get the ball. It doesn't need to be a one-touch. They have time to trap it. They're just finding the open player.
And you've seen a couple of shots here. They haven't necessarily arrived on goal from Duke from distance. I think you're up 2-0 at this point, right? Why not see if you can find some additional holes here? Maybe something breaks your way. You can play a little bit more with that house money sort of feeling.
And you mentioned this doesn't happen to Stanford. It doesn't happen to Stanford, period. You look at the stats, you look at their season so far. This is the only multi-goal game that they have given up in this season.
I've just been watching the door a bit, and people that were parking the car and just kind of walking in, they glance at the scoreboard, and it's a look of bewilderment. I just got here. What happened? How is Stanford down 2-0?
Given up 5 on the year so far before this game, and they had not given up more than 1 goal in a game. And Lizzie Boama still on her feet, and she'll finally get the call. It's cheers from the crowd as it feels, I guess, to them like, okay, we're building something. And sometimes it takes an individual effort like that, like Lizzie Boama just made, to get things started.
And you know, Robbie Church, I'm sure, has shared this, and you know the Duke athletes out there currently know that, yes, 2-0 is nice, also not necessarily safe here. Stanford more than capable of making a run.
Absolutely. Jasmine Ike will stand alone over the ball. Ike into the middle to Evans. Evans misses the header, and a bouncing ball. Montoya tries to flick it on. Evans can't get there, and it's scooped up from Freeman. Plenty of time left in this half, just as we approach the 20-minute mark, and Freeman will take her time, as she should. But you see Lizzie Boama with, I mean, she has success in every game dribbling at her opposing player because she's just that good with when she's on the ball. But
nice takeaway.
Beautiful. Some of these passes have been picked off from Stanford. Perhaps dribbling at this team is the way to kind of move them out of position. The question you always have to solve is, how do we move this defense out of position? Because when they're out of position, then we can find what we want to find. And perhaps Stanford has found that dribbling at them, making them move with the player on the ball, could be the way.
And look, it might have taken 8-10 minutes of game time to shake off what transpired in the first 5, and now you're seeing Stanford develop some different approaches here to break through this Duke defense, as you mentioned.
We mentioned Jasmine Ike getting her first start in the midfield for this year, obviously midfielder of the year last year. But first start this year, how much does that, do you think it changes up the mentality for Stanford? Does it feel like, oh, this is a different lineup, now we have to figure out how to play differently? Or do you think she can slot in anywhere with this team, and because she played in the midfield last year, it feels like, oh, the shoe fits, we don't have to readjust?
I'm sure there's some micro adjustments here, but you're talking about a veteran player, someone that's so critical to what they do. A lot of confidence in her. I think they just probably feel good with her out there as part of the 11, and they'll take it from there. Sure, some adjustments. It is maybe, you might say, her more natural position going back to their time in the Pac-12, but I can't imagine they go on thinking, oh no, this is such a jarring difference from how we usually operate.
Long ball, Jaden Thomas chasing. Thomas has not really been able to find herself on the ball a lot for the Cardinals so far this half. Jaden Thomas, number 9, playing that center forward position. Wearing 9 and playing the 9, if you will. Freshman out of Dallas, Texas. This is her 5th start of the year. 1 goal and an assist on the season. And she's best when she gets the ball at her feet. And so far, we've really only seen her chasing. So perhaps something else that Stanford can try to adjust to is to get her on the ball.
And if you're Stanford here, again, not to bang this drum over and over again, but you need to start generating some offense. 21 coming up on 22 minutes in. No shots on goal. Nothing on the attack with some consistency. That's where they need to start to make a bit more of a concerted effort as we get a whistle here.
The offsides. That ball went to Ella Haas. Stanford will take over, but you can very easily see what Duke like to do and also what they do so well, and it's that ball out wide to the flanks and an early cross in behind the line for Stanford's defenders to start running back facing their own goal. Duke just looking like a well-oiled machine right now. Lynch will just look to possess it, and this trio on this left-hand side with Lynch, Haas, and Groff just works so well for the Blue Devils, but dispossessed well, and Cardinal slowly building into this game.
You mentioned Duke. We talked about the transfers, the 4 injuries. Out of that, Mary Long, she's off with the USA U17 squad, left after their last one, the win against Louisville. She's not back until early November at the least. They're down in the Dominican Republic for international competition there. One thing that Coach Church talked about was the players that have filled in, no one's looking over their shoulder wondering is someone coming for them. They've kind of got who they've got in some of these roles. That is so freeing for an athlete to know, not that it's a license to make all sorts of mistakes, but you do get a little extra boost when you don't necessarily feel the pressure of someone immediately trying to take your job on these super competitive squads.
Kitahara to Aiki. Aiki cutting in the middle, trying to find a window to get a shot off. She does. And the first shot of the game goes to Jasmine Aiki for the Stanford Cardinal.
Something to work with, something to build on here for Stanford. Again, save from Freeman. She's right there in front of it, able to gather it up. But at least it's an attack, it's a shot on goal, and now the Cardinal can try and work with that.
And that's exactly who you want on that ball. It's Andrea Kitahara played that to Jasmine Aiki, and we'll have some early substitutions, 4 of them.
Number 11, Eleanor Klinger.
Mentioned Kitahara, such a strong start to this season. 1 point in 8 of the last 12, and delivered against SMU in the win there in Texas, and 6 goals overall. So if Stanford's going to start to generate some offense, she could be a real pivotal piece to that attack.
And just as we talked about Jasmine Aiki, and she created the first opportunity for the Cardinals, she now shifts back into the center defense. She's going to sit alongside Elise Evans, and it seems like Paul Ratcliffe wants to just shore up that back line and say, if we're going to win this game, no more goals. All right, need to go in the back of this net. So let's get these subs on. Shea Harvey, number 5, comes onto the field. She'll slot in that center mid position. And Jasmine Aiki will drop back to the center back position where freshman Vonnie Brandt exited. Eleanor Klinger, number 11, also enters. Freshman playing on this right flank. She came on for Ali Montoya. Joelle Jung, number 21, enters into the midfield as well. And Marin Wolf up top where Jaden Thomas was playing at that center forward position. And a good win from Mia Buddha in the middle. And there's Harvey with her first touches of the game. Shea Harvey having started a lot of the first games, actually 10 starts in the first 10 games, and has been coming off the bench since then for the Cardinal. Of course, for Paul Ratcliffe's team, it's a different starting lineup potentially every day. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. A different look, and perhaps now a different look with Shea Harvey on the field.
Let's see what this infusion here off the bench does. Some fresh legs out there, and maybe change up the tempo a little bit. So we got about 20 left in this first half to work with.
Also some fresh legs. I mean, what we haven't touched on yet is that Duke is coming off of a big win. They won 3-1 at Louisville. They were up 3-0, and Louisville actually scored late in the second half. But that meant that they were able to get most of their starters a lot of rest. There were only 2 starters who played the full 90 for Duke in that game. So a lot of these players are feeling a lot more rested than they would have.
That looked to be developing, and that last one just did not make it through.
Good work there from Stanford Cardinal, repossessing, going back. Elise Evans directing traffic from the back, and she'll just opt to play it off to Jasmine Aiki. But you can see a lot here when Jasmine Aiki or Elise Evans is on the ball, who really is moving for them up top, and they just opt to go to Boama. And this is good. Sometimes this is what you need to do. Move the defense from side to side. You need the patience to be able to swing it side to side. It can feel like we're not going anywhere, but what it's actually doing is moving the defense from side to side. And if one of them decides on the 5th switch that they don't want to move again, that's your opening. Miscue there from Harvey, but it'll be called against her, and Duke will take this on the ground. 27 minutes now into this first half. Duke Blue Devils up 2-0 off of 2 goals from Graham. We don't know the exact seconds they were scored in, but it was within a minute that Graham scored those goals.
14 seconds apart.
14 seconds apart. Lynch trying to find Walters, who was streaking up top. The offside flag was up, so if the ball had gotten to her, flag would have gone up anyways. They'll take a throw. A throw while Ike was chasing the ball as well, so we'll go again. Ella Haas, the 5th year out of Illinois, transfer from Northwestern, one of the graduate students. 2 goals and 6 assists on the year. We'll take the throw again. We've said her name quite a few times. She's tallied a goal or an assist in 5 straight games before the most recent game versus Louisville.
They just rave about her athleticism and the graduate transfers, the transfer portal in general. They've just gotten athletes with so much experience, with confidence. That is such a huge difference maker, especially to a team that is maybe on the cusp of making a postseason run, of taking that next step. Those transfers can make all the difference. I'm
going to correct myself here. I said Ivani Brandt had come off. She is actually slotted into the right back position where Nia Harrison had come off, so let me make that correction here. She sits in the right back. She moved from center back out to right back, and Nia Harrison is no longer on the field. My apologies there. And again, another dangerous ball. And yes, Duke has felt threatening, but nothing like those first 5-10 minutes that we saw.
And that's a credit to the Cardinal. They did take that initial wave, and as stunning as it was, now they've settled down a little bit. They've made some adjustments. We saw some subs, saw Ike slide back, get a little confidence there defensively, and at least holding Duke at bay. Now the other part, a little bit more challenging. Duke's defense has done a nice job here thus far in holding down Stanford. We've seen just the 1 shot on goal. Can Stanford, to your point, move that defense around? There's been a bit of a log jam in the middle there. Can they try and push that attack up, get Duke out of the way, get them maybe just off balance a touch to try and get something going?
2 subs for Duke include forward Mia Minestrella, who's just made the run for Haas. Now Minestrella getting her first touches on the ball. It'll fall out, goal kick. So Minestrella, number 13, will slot in that center forward position, and Julia Sonicheva will slot in as well.
That didn't end up being what Duke wanted, but you just watch this group, and I keep thinking through the first 30 minutes, like, man, they're connected. They just seem to be working well as a unit. It's been part of why they're off to this great start, not just here tonight, but in this season in general. Robbie Church telling us what was a difference maker moment this year that let you know it was not going to be like last season. Mentioned that win at home against UNC. Somehow they had never beaten the Tar Heels at home in his tenure. They finally got over the hump, and that to him was a big signal that this was some kind of special season.
It certainly has been for the Duke Blue Devils, ranked number 1 in the country for the first time in program history. They currently, however, despite being ranked number 1 in the country, get this, sit in 4th in the ACC, and that's a great picture for the ACC for you. Obviously, there's some games in hand. Certain teams have played more than others, and that accounts for more points, and that has something to do about it. But North Carolina is sitting in first, 6-0. Duke in 4th, 4-0, obviously. So big game here for Duke if they want to keep up with North Carolina. Wolf trying to send that into the middle. Jung takes over. Good slot in. Kitahara denied, but Stanford with a goal, or excuse me, with a corner kick and a great save there from Freeman.
And she's slow to get up.
We get the clock stopped, but the good news is it doesn't seem like athletic training has been ushered onto the field. That's always a good sign, and a beautiful 1v1 save against, I mean, we talked about how explosive Andrea Kitahara has been and how dynamic she is, and if there's one person you want on the ball to put the ball in the back of the net if you're the Stanford Cardinal, it's the one with 6 goals and 4 assists on the year.
And what an effort there from Leah Freeman, though. That is the best opportunity the Cardinal have had thus far, and she stepped up and was strong to cut that down. Ike
will take this now for the Cardinal, 31 minutes in. The difference between going into halftime down 2 and down 1 is just huge. Here's the ball in, and it'll not really sail inbounds. It'll hit that side netting. Missed opportunity there for the Cardinal.
Stop. Then the first corner. Offense has just been slow to develop in this first half here. You mentioned cutting it down to 1. I think it's so critical too, again, to state the obvious here, but keep this at 2. You can't let Duke get another here before intermission, and then you can work, really try and reboot at halftime.
Absolutely. Obviously, you want to get one, but you make a good point. It's more important to not let them score than it is to score if you're the Stanford Cardinal. And now calls for offside once again. Not going to get it. Oh, they are going to get it this time. And the age-old, you either have a coach that will not like you putting your hand up and calling your own offside. They say just keep playing. Or they don't mind it. Stanford letting that line ref know that that was in fact offside. That run from Minestrella, one of the 2 substitutes who came on for Duke so far. Here's Brandt.
It's almost instinctive for some players. They can't not do it, even though they know the refs are going to do their own thing.
Wolf with a good turn. Marion Wolf out to Klinger. Eleanor Klinger, the freshman who's put in a lot of work for the Stanford Cardinal, earns a corner kick. Second one now for the Cardinal.
So just this last 4 or 5 minutes, you've started to get the feeling that Stanford putting some stuff together. They generate the corner, they generate another. Some prolonged attacks here for the Cardinal, trying desperately to break through.
And more time in their attacking half. Joel Jung now to take this for the Cardinal. It'll be an outswinger. She takes it with the right. On the ground, cleared out, right to Klinger, who will put it right back in the box. Headed on from Harvey! And cleared off of the line. Stanford calling for a goal. And it's given. Shea Harvey gets one back for the Cardinal.
Oh, that's huge for Stanford. They kept knocking on the door here after a real dormant start to this match offensively. That second corner, it leads to the opportunity, and they finally cash in. Sarah, that has got to feel like the biggest relief for the Cardinal.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sitting here thinking we were going to go to video review on that one. That must feel so good, and good for Shea Harvey. A beautiful ball into the box for Eleanor Klinger. I'm going to guess she's going to get the assist on that one.
It does look as if they're taking a look across the field again. Our vantage point here.
I guess this is a good time to remind everybody that it's like the NFL. The call in the field stands unless there's conclusive evidence to overturn it. So the favor does go to Stanford that it will be a goal. A referee talking to the stands over there. Any issues? The goal for the Cardinal. Are the tides turning?
Our referee, Corey Rockwell, crowd into a fervor as that one is signaled. Yes, in fact, it is a score, and that is massive for the Cardinal now.
Jung will try to play that forward, and I mean, soccer, as any sport, is a game of momentum. It certainly can be, and the question is to have the tides turned a little bit. Handball called. Stanford will take over, and you can see the energy in this team. You can feel the energy from the crowd, certainly.
We talked about it early on. Any team, Duke included, you sign for a 2-0 start in the opening 5 minutes 10 out of 10 times. You always want that sort of great energy, that beginning, get your opposition on their heels. But they also have been around long enough to know that that may not hold. There's going to be more work to do, and they're seeing that they're not going to be able to coast here. Stanford's going to keep the intensity up. They're starting to find their footing, which for us is going to make for a much interesting match here going to the second half. Still some time here in the first.
This is certainly starting to feel like the game that everybody in the stands came out and thought it was going to be. Jung trying to find Klinger wide and just picked off from from Haas. Now you see the Stanford Cardinal pressing high, trying to keep this ball in their attacking half. Ike to Evans. Evans and Ike, these two center backs right now for the Cardinal, just so composed on the ball. Evans, one of the two captains here for the Stanford Cardinal, along with, one of the three captains, along with Andrea Kitahara and Keely Pagador. Both teams with 3 captains. I'm sure you can hear that helicopter overhead. A beautiful ball up the middle. Here's Buta. Buta taking her space, and the center of this field has opened wide up for the Stanford Cardinals, swinging it right through the midfield. Here's Boama. Boama kind of forcing it forward to Wolf, and I understand they are wanting to go forward, but have Miyabuta sitting right there. Just keep going through the middle. Middle is so open now for the Cardinal, whereas the beginning of the game was completely closed down. You can see how Duke's lines are just completely collapsed on top of each other.
You brought up a great point. It seemed as if Stanford was stuck in the mud there for a long time, really battling just to get past the midfield mark, and now so much space to operate with Duke dropping back here, guarding against that attack. It's almost as if one goal from Stanford, and now Duke said, bring it back. We've got to be prepared for the next wave of offense. But they were really jamming them up when they were doing a more threatening job controlling at the middle third.
This high press, I think, that Stanford has put on now when they're in their own attacking half to try to get the ball back, win it back when they're in that attacking half, has been huge. It keeps Duke under pressure because we've seen how well Duke can move that ball around, how quickly they can move it around when they're set up in their offense.
You said it earlier, a game of momentum, but also a game of adjustments, right? Can you make these little changes on the fly, change the tempo, change the pace? We've seen that from the Cardinal here.
Sometimes the team that wins the game is one that can make the adjustments best or fastest. And good win in the middle from Shea Harvey. Brandt just misses Klinger. Duke ball with just under 10 minutes left in this half. You can hear how vocal both of these teams are, and the intensity starts to pick up. Trap between 2, and Joel Jung is dispossessed. Brandt, freshman, so calm under pressure. I mean, Avani Brandt, she's been playing in that center back role a lot for the Stanford Cardinal now alongside Elise Evans, right now playing in that right back. First of all, to be that versatile to switch in the middle of the game and for your coach to have that much faith in you, you have to have such a high soccer IQ. But especially you add on the fact she's a freshman, and the composure that she demonstrates on the ball, off the ball. I mean, you look across this field, and it's just the amount of talent the Stanford Cardinal have in that freshman class is something.
It's so often you hear coaches talk about not just recruiting for specific positions, but recruiting the best athlete, the best sport IQ, knowing that once you get them on your roster, you can plug them into certain places, and everyone wants to be out there. They will take the role that the team needs to be a part of this 11, and that's what you've seen in a couple of these instances. Plug and play with some all-world talent on both of these teams.
One of the few sports where you just want to put the 11 best out there, not necessarily position-specific. Goalkeeper excluded, we'll say.
Sure, of course.
Certainly want that to be specific as it goes back to Freeman, Duke's goalkeeper, and now Duke able to spread out their lines a little bit, and they find that switch. That's so good for them. Haas now finding space on the ball. Looks left, dispossessed. Ooh, not even dispossessed, really. Just loses it on a poor touch, and Miyabuta takes over. Now
it's a rare miscue for Haas to give that one away. She's been so steady on the ball tonight.
Yeah, you could almost see what she was thinking as she was dribbling, because she had that run opening up to her left, but it wasn't opening in the way that she wanted it to, so she wanted to play that ball left. It was being closed down. Didn't feel like she wanted to go middle, and in that process, just an off touch. Player down for Duke, but she'll get back up. That's Sonicheva, one of the subs for the Blue Devils, who now will take about a possession of their own, swinging it around. Is there another one left in the half?
Coming up on 5 minutes to go, Sonicheva, another local product from San Jose, Leland High School. And UCLA, her initial stop, and then on to Duke.
You mentioned plenty of players on Duke Blue Devils team from the Bay, from around here. Also, plenty of these players on the Stanford Cardinal team. know some of the players on the Duke Blue Devils. Some of them played club here in the Bay Area growing up. Some of them have played on a summer league team together.
Talking about just two of the biggest brands in college sports, right? Two of the most prestigious universities. They recruit everywhere across the country.
Bouncing ball in the middle is one.
So now the question I have is, if you're Stanford, look, you know you want to find that equalizer, but do you look at 2-1, 5 minutes left and say, mission accomplished. We dug out of that hole a little bit. Let's hold down the fort here if we can and get into the break.
In my opinion, absolutely not. I'm curious what you think.
I'd love to see a little more of a push here, and I think if the opportunity avails itself, they'll take it.
Long ball in. Craig punching it out. Jung with the clearance, but not quite enough. Duke Blue Devils will scoop it up. And here come the Duke Blue Devils. Bibar with a long ball, and they love to play those diagonal balls in, keeping it in. Flag goes up that it went out, actually. A beautiful ball across, and a lucky there a little bit for the Stanford Cardinal that Duke really just couldn't get to it.
And the only reason I raised the question of how aggressive is Stanford on one end, because if by chance it doesn't go the way they want and it ignites an attack the other way, do you worry at all about getting burned here with just a few minutes left? I know you could get into what-ifs all evening long, but given what they've climbed out of, 2-0 in the first few minutes, and then they got one back, there's a part of you that feels a little conservative. You get a chance to reset things at the half and then really come out and almost say, look, this is our chance here in the second half. We can completely take control of this match if we put some things together.
Just about 3 minutes to play, and Stanford making most likely their final subs of the half. Erica Grillione, sophomore out of Roseville, comes in. She's on that left flank, number 17. Keely Pagador, one of the three captains. Senior out of Roseville, California, comes in. She's on that left back position, number 27. And finally, Lumi Kosmeyer, number 33, in that center forward position. Chess match continues, and it feels like we've gone back and forth. Duke kind of winning those first 15 minutes, Stanford growing into the game, winning the next 15, possibly even the next 20, and now we're just in that back and forth, these two teams trading bouts of possession. The idea here for both of them is to bend but not break. Another corner one here for the Stanford Cardinal. It looks like Joel Jung will jog over and take that, so it'll be an in-swinger from the righty. As the clock continues to tick, 2 minutes left in this half. Klinger providing the short option. Remember, the last one went on the ground, and its deflection out went to Klinger, who then put it into the box. And she slips as she takes the corner, and Pagador with the left, and it'll roll out of bounds. Unfortunate there, Joel Jung just slipped. Her leg just went out from under her when she took that.
A good opportunity there late. We're about 90 seconds left in this first half, and unfortunately there for the Cardinal, probably their last best look in this first half.
Long ball out, Wong from Pagador. Stanford trying to push up for this final minute. Pagador winning it again. Harvey trying to flick it on, but it'll fall back to Duke. And they'll just go back around the horn. Chico will go back to Freeman. And now Stanford trying to high press. They don't win the throw, but they are able to keep Duke back in their own defensive half. And now they'll slide over and try to keep it here. Running clock, though, as we have about 45 seconds left. And Duke don't seem like they're feeling too much urgency to get this ball in, of course, with the 2-1 lead.
And that pass from Freeman there, a little scary as that high press from Stanford came up.
That high press from Stanford in this attacking half of theirs, or in Duke's defensive half, has really changed this game. As we approach 15 seconds remaining in this half, we go right to 45, and that's it. No injury time, no stoppage time, just right to the buzzer. Harvey trying to flick it along. And now it'll take some sort of magic for something to happen before the end of this half, and it will not. So we will head into halftime with the Duke Blue Devils in the lead, 2-1. They go up with 2 goals by Graham in 14 seconds. And then Stanford get one back from Shea. And then I think they talked on how they can build on what they've been doing well offensively. Obviously, they were to get one back, 2-1 now. And so I think it was, how do we continue what we're doing on defense, make sure nothing else goes in the back of the net, and build on what we've been doing offensively. Here's what's been working. Let's go for that.
Back underway here. Cardinal in their pink jerseys here, their pink jersey night in honor of and awareness of breast cancer. Moving right to left on your screen now, working back to control this one. Of course, the Blue Devils, as you might imagine, in the blues as we get started here. Odd times for Stanford. This is the most goals already they've allowed in any match this season, right? So they have been so good defensively. A lot of shutouts and already 2 on the board here for the Blue Devils. So they have their work cut out really for the first time in a long time here as we open up play in this second half. Sellout crowd here on hand again as the top team in the land, Duke #1 for the first time in their program's history. Now in the ACC with Stanford. So this is a conference matchup. These two met here last year, 4-0 win for the Cardinal. This is a much different story as Duke much improved this year after a down season and now looking for the big victory here on the road.
It's good work there from Lizzie Boima. She's been just so steady in that left back role for the Stanford Cardinal. I mean, the freshman has basically come in and made this role her own in that left back. She's locked down defensively, and then she adds an element into the offense, and that's as much as you can ask for from an outside back.
Looking to put something together here. Cardinal now looking to control on the outside. Montoya. She'll look to set the table here. Montoya controlling. Brings that ball middle. Here's Harvey. Harvey now swings it near side. Looking to control. A little one-on-one action. Firing and a save there. A rocket that Leah Freeman, second effort. Oh! So close. Third bite of the apple. Inside. Keeper out. Stanford desperate to keep this ball alive and will be stopped there. What an opening flurry for the Cardinal.
Well, I don't know how that didn't go in for Andrea Kitahara. I think she doesn't know how either. But that's incredible pressure for the Stanford Cardinal. Some mispositioning there for not just the defense, but also for Freeman and goal for the Duke Blue Devils. And what a way to start it. I mean, we've talked about how many goals Stanford have scored at the beginning of the first half and the beginning of the second half. And that's the Stanford Cardinal that I think we expected to see at the beginning of the first half.
I think Freeman took that initial rocket at point-blank range. It kind of got everyone a little bit off kilter. And then Kitahara so close. Takeaway here. Cardinal. The strike in Freeman. She has been busy early. We are just a few seconds, it feels like, into this second half. And already a brand new energy from the home squad.
Stanford, I think, saying they need to come out and get one back quickly. And they're not going to relent. And I mentioned that high press for Stanford, how they're high pressing Duke when Duke are in their own half. And it's worked wonders. Stanford just getting back on the ball because when Duke are on it, they don't give it away. They move it around so well and so quickly. It's hard for Stanford to get in their own flow. So let's just stop Duke from getting in a flow altogether. And it's worked wonders not just to stop Duke, but, hey, it gets your offense on the ball in your attacking half.
So Kitahara, a couple of looks there to no avail. Jaden Thomas, the last shot. And now it's back to Stanford. Boima gets it to that right foot. Looks to put it across and nobody home as that one sails out of play and will stay down this end as a deflection on the way through. So again, Stanford feels like a brand new operation from what we saw in the opening minutes of this where Duke was the aggressor. Stanford has come out. Clearly the message from Paul Ratcliffe, turn up the heat. And here's another corner in the early moments. This one looking middle. Duke trying to clear this one away. Stanford will look to track it down, keep it in, able to do that. Kitahara there first. A chance developing here now. A settle and a try. It's knocked down. Good opportunity there from Shea Harvey. And now it's back to Kitahara. She'll settle this one. Send that to the far post. Looping ball. Freeman punches it away. Stanford just peppering the cage now here to open up this second half.
Well, now Duke looking a little out of sorts on their defense as well. Stanford putting them on their back foot.
Wama to throw it in. Kitahara. She'll control here, tries to thread the needle there. Again, good fight from Duke, a tussle. Blue Devils looking for a call, nothing doing. Instead, Kitahara sends it near post. Freeman again. Duke has to hustle to get to that ball as their keeper was down. Freeman now recovers, and they'll work back to Wama.
Now Kitahara just needs to keep putting those balls in the box. One of them will go in. They've got so much texture on them, and she's able to place them so perfectly. You can tell how much it challenges a goalkeeper, because if they can't catch it cleanly, they're going to punch it away, and if they're not sure, they're just going to punch it as well. So you can see how much she's really testing Freeman in goal with all of those punches.
Another slip down there, a takeaway. Miscue here. The Blue Devils with the try, and that is wide. That could have been a huge chance for Devin Lynch and the Duke Blue Devils, as a giveaway there. Chunk of the field coming up as the Cardinals slipping down, trying to advance that ball, and they luck out there. Nothing worse from Duke.
Yeah, that would have been unfortunate. Jasmine Eichen just taking a spill there, and we've actually seen a few players slip as they're trying to kick the ball. Actually, on that side of the field, we saw Joelle Jung taking a corner kick. We've seen Shea Harvey trip on that side as well. Something about the field over there. What a start here for the Stanford Cardinal, though. This first 6 has been all Stanford.
Still trailing 2-1, but have taken complete control of the energy and the momentum here out of intermission.
I think if you're the Cardinal, you can't focus on the fact that you're down right now. You just have to focus on the fact that you're winning the past 6 minutes. You're winning this second half. You have to focus on the process. It's something athletes say a lot, and it's almost become cliche, but it's so true. If Stanford focus on the fact that they're down right now, it's going to become frantic. They're just going to start playing that ball into the box. They need to just keep doing what they're doing, work that ball around, and focus on building.
Frustration there from Maggie Graham. She wanted a call, felt like inadvertently clothesline from behind, but did not seem to be an intentional act. And now the Cardinal. Can they possess the ball here? No, a takeaway from Duke. And trading possession back and forth here. Again, the aggression on both sides. A much different tempo from what we saw in the opening minutes of that first half. The energy's been ramped up here. If you didn't have the scoreboard on, you might have the feeling it's much later in this match than it is. Here's a chance now. Duke, good recovery. That's the speed of Ella Haas.
Well, we've seen it a lot today, and we've actually only seen it on the attacking end. There we get to see it on the defensive end. She's been up and down.
Throw in now far side here for the Cardinal. Stanford and number 7 on the year, 11-1-1, 3-1-1 in ACC play. That one dealt back out. Blue Devils now can try and create something. Long run here. Craig's got a back pedal. Free ball here. Craig boots that one away. Still in danger. And Stanford able to maintain control. That was a long run for Cameron Roller. Actually, correction, looks to be Farrah Walters.
Well, Elise Evans is not going to get credit for how smart she played that, because that was a foot race. That was an outright foot race, and she figured out she wasn't going to win it. And so in a last-ditch effort, in that final step before she thought maybe she wasn't going to get to the ball, she just taps that back to Haley Craig, who honestly, I think she lost her footing as well there in that part of the field. But just honestly, potentially a game saver there from Elise Evans to get her foot on that and punch that back to Haley Craig.
Saw everyone there with a little bit of a hesitation, wondering offsides potential. We play on, and again, a close call. So
it is a packed house here. We've got people standing behind us.
2-1. They have been treated to a really energetic match to start. If you're here from the beginning, you saw Duke take complete control in the opening moments, and now you've seen Stanford try and track this one down. Freeman again will get rid of that with Buddha rushing on. It'll be settled here by Evans. And now Lizzie Boima, the freshman out of San Diego.
Jaden Thomas playing in that center forward position. Mentioned in the first half how she couldn't really get on the ball. She's best when the ball is at her feet, and she was running onto it a lot in that first half, and in this second half, that's changed. We've seen her with the ball at her feet, and she's been able to create some opportunities.
Long run here once again for Walters, this time offsides.
Well, listen, this Duke front line has so much speed in it, and that's hard to deal with sometimes for a back line, especially when you've got a team like Duke that has a midfield that can play very intelligent balls in behind the back line. And at that point, you have to decide if you're going to try to call the offside, play the offside trap, or if you're going to anticipate and drop and try to not let it turn into a foot race, essentially, because you are anticipating that long ball coming. And Stanford, that's been what they're trying to work out in that back line. And you saw them almost got caught there with Elise Evans having to tap that back to Haley Craig, and that ball right there trying to do the same thing, and that time Cardinal play the offside trap.
Throwing now here for Duke. A little hesitation trying to find the right opportunity, and now they're ready to go. Cardinal came out a house on fire to start this second half. Duke has weathered that storm a bit and started to get a little bit of their offense in action, at least controlling the ball a little bit better on the possession. Thrown here again on the far side. That's B-Bar. Again, another one that has the potential just to take complete control. Such a big addition to this team coming over from Harvard.
Yeah, head coach Robbie Church said that he thinks she's one of the best in the country. That's saying quite a lot.
Yeah, that's tremendous praise.
He's in his 24th season. He's seen quite a few athletes come through.
Through traffic here, threads a needle now, pushing ahead. Graham, she had the 2 goals early. They'll spread it out wide. Oliaro looking a little one-on-one. Deals back out high. Here's a try, up and away, over the top. That's Karina Laguerre sailing it.
In for Stanford, number 21, Joelle Jung.
And we'll see Joelle Jung will return for the Cardinal.
Yeah, she came on as a sub in that first half, and she did so well. She comes on for Shea Harvey, who is the goal scorer for the Stanford Cardinal, also had a great first half. Those two contributing so much in the center mid, and especially for a team, we talked about at the beginning of this game, how the Cardinal were having trouble just finding space in that center midfield, and those two have really helped open it up for them.
Oh, great little 2-person game here. Oliaro again, and that's cleared away. Good recovery help there.
Another potentially game-saving clear there from Elise Evans.
Evans so strong.
There's a reason she's as decorated as she is. There's a reason she went to Colombia and played in the World Cup with the U.S. Youth National Team.
Preseason All-ACC Mac Herman watch list. You mentioned the bronze with Team USA. And delighted are the Cardinal to have her back in the mix here. Such a safety blanket. With that said, a turnover here. Again, a stumble. And the Blue Devils will look to keep it in. Centering pass here. Header in front, just off the mark. They'll try and keep the pressure on. Haas now. And that one is taken away. Montoya comes in like a blur to pick the pocket. There's been a couple of stumbles now on that end of the field here at Kagan. Throwing now for Stanford. Just about 15 minutes into this second half here. So still plenty of time left. Stanford trying to find their way level. Blue Devils now on the move.
Yeah, I would say that Duke has done a really good job right now. They weathered the storm, if you will, in that first 15. Stanford Cardinal really coming at them strong, and they were able to bend but not break, really, is what it was. And now it's on the Stanford Cardinal as the momentum kind of starts to die a little bit from that first big ignite and that first big, we're going to start this half really strong. How can you gather your momentum? There's 30 minutes left to play, but how can you find some urgency here?
Yeah, with that start from Stanford, it sure seemed like they were about to break through. Didn't end up happening. Freeman now will come out to gather here. And you're exactly right. The Blue Devils did a fantastic job taking in all that energy from Stanford, not allowing a goal and settling down here a bit.
And frankly, I think we might have just had an indication from Paul Riley about how he thinks he can continue to keep the energy up, the momentum up. We had a sub 15 minutes into this half. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a lot of rotation throughout the Stanford Cardinal in this half.
Meanwhile, the Blue Devils control here with Walters. It's eventually played back to Katie Groff. And now a battle here. Bibar eventually ends up with Lynch. Lynch here with a little bit of space. We'll push it back out to Oliaro. Oliaro can try and set the table, goes far post. Header settled, quick try and score. The Blue Devils add another. It's a 3-1 lead for Duke.
Well, that was out of the training ground. Picture perfect. You can't draw it up any better. It's exactly what they teach you. You get a ball to the back post, you head it into the middle, and Devin Lynch is there to sweep it up, and that is an unsavable goal from number 6. Incredible from her 5th on the season.
So 3-1, Duke with a big response here to Stanford's early energy in this second half. And talked about the missing pieces for Duke. Kat Rader, the junior, you wonder where does that offense come from? And Robbie Church told us Devin Lynch has done an excellent job stepping into her position. Lynch a season ago, no goals, 2 assists. This year, now 5 goals, 6 helpers, and has got Duke in front 3-1.
She started the most recent 6 coming into this and had scored or assisted in all of those 6 matches, make that 7. Every game that she has started, she's either scored or assisted for the Duke Blue Devils.
When she's out there, something good happens. Here's Kitahara. Cardinal able to keep it in. Good look in front, save! Freeman, another.
Great from the Cardinal, but I'm going to tell you, I feel like that is exactly what has been the difference on the night. The Duke Blue Devils put that one away, and Stanford hasn't been able to.
Corner coming. Cardinal will keep the opportunity going, but what a stop there in close from the Blue Devils. Here's the corner. In front, header, dealt away. Second effort, they'll keep it on the ground. It goes out of play there. Leah Freeman, 5 saves now for the Oregon transfer, the Bay Area native. She'll head home this weekend when they take on the Cal Bears. And, you know, she's got some family, some folks in the stands here tonight, and what a stop there, right in close.
Yeah, she's just been huge today. Pretty unbelievable. We mentioned she's obviously played against Stanford. She's familiar with Kagan Stadium, with the Stanford Cardinal. She was at Oregon before this. She had actually her record 1 win, 2 losses, 1 draw against the Stanford Cardinal. She'd like to make that a little bit more even. She was a standout goalkeeper at Oregon. I mean, one of her years she had 114 saves.
The consistency, too. She's played now 75 games, 75 starts. Freeman out. Has to hustle to get back. Open net and cleared away by Duke. Teamwork from the Blue Devils as Freeman aggressively off her line to cut that down.
Well, the Cardinal have to be wondering what they have to do to get this ball in the back of the net. And credit to the Stanford Cardinal, what a response. It's really easy to drop your head when you go down 3-1. They've gotten that goal back, and instead they respond with this, an attack of their own.
Corner here from Buda. Freeman punches that up, and we'll get a whistle and head the other way. And the Blue Devils again hold strong. You got to give credit here to the goalkeeping work of Leah Freeman. Ties her season high now, 5 saves. And then on the other end, Duke doing it with offense. 7 straight matches now with 3+ goals. Remember, this is a team last year could not find the net, had less goals than matches. And now a bit of an offensive juggernaut in comparison.
Absolutely. This game's so important for both teams as well. I'm talking about the ACC, different from Stanford's previous conference in that the ACC has a conference tournament, and you have to be in the top 6 to make the conference tournament.
In an extremely deep league.
in an extremely deep conference as well. And to give you a little bit of a picture here, Stanford currently sit in 6th place right now. Duke sit in 4th. Stanford 3 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw in the conference. Obviously not including this current, live standing in terms of where this game is at. And they've got 4 ACC games on the slate. Such a competitive conference, though. We talk about what level of competition. Rankings came out. Obviously, we've mentioned how Duke.
Blue Devils here putting something together again inside and deflected as they looked to get Walters engaged once again in close.
We mentioned how Duke is ranked number 1, first time in program history. 3 ACC teams in the top 5. Duke, UNC, and Wake Forest ranked 1, 2, 3. And then 9 total in the top 25. Stanford, Notre Dame, Cal, Virginia Tech, FSU, Virginia. Just a star-studded conference.
Corner here for Duke. This is coming short. Craig out to punch that one away. This one served in. Can Duke settle it and put something on net? Deflected out. A foot race here. Stanford on the move. Keeper had come out, but again, Haas turning on the Jets to track that ball down. Looking as if that was going to develop into another foot race or a chance there for the Cardinal and Jaden Thomas, but Ella Haas just a blur.
Stanford have done a great job to put Duke under pressure. Perhaps the most under pressure they've been defensively in this entire season. They've only given up 13 corner kicks across the entire year so far, and Stanford having won 6. And corner kicks can a lot of times be a good indication of just how under pressure a defense really is. So when you look at those numbers, I mean, this is a defense that has held up so well, and Stanford, just what that means in terms of this game is Stanford has done everything right except for that final piece, which is the back of the net, and that's what's been plaguing them all season. You look at how many goals they've scored across the whole year, and they're averaging 1.5 goals a game. A couple games ago, it was more like a goal a game. So you can ride on the fact that you really don't let in a lot of goals, but at a certain point, we just talked about how strong this conference is. At a certain point, that is going to break, and you have to put some goals away in order to win a game. You can't have a 1-goal victory every single time.
And that's been a lot of the schedule, as you highlighted. The defense has just done the job. They haven't needed more than that. Rare moment here. This is the most they've allowed in any game this season, and they're going to need to dip into that offense, find some way through here again. 66 minutes deep here. Turning the corner now. Popped up in close, keeper out. Craig there, ball in the back of the net. Duke has another, make it 4-1.
There's something special about this Duke offense this year. It just feels like they can't be stopped. They will keep rolling, and if one threat won't do it, the other one will.
And how about a hat trick for Maggie Graham? She's got 3, credited with that last tally. Now 8 on the season. 4-1.
That's a heartbreaker for the Stanford Cardinal. You could feel how they responded well when they went down 3-1. And that you felt like was the heartbreaker for them because they'd worked so hard to make it a 1-goal game again. And they were looking for that equalizer and for Duke to get that 3rd. But Stanford came out and they had a good response to that 3rd. But you can just see in the body language now when Duke puts that 4th away, Stanford just feeling like there might not be enough left in the tank.
Kelly Pagador on the senior from Roseville. Yeah, this is a tall order here, down 3. 66 minutes deep into this one. Meanwhile, Graham, the score, credit assists to Farrell Walters and Devin Lynch. And a year later, it's Duke dropping 4 on Stanford, returning the favor.
You know, the irony. Must feel good if you're a Duke Blue Devil.
Moments like this, again, we've talked about it, the final season for Robbie Church. Over 300 wins with the Blue Devils. Kieran Hall to take over. You beat UNC at home, you come on the road, do something like this, you start to get the sense maybe this is one of those special years for the Blue Devils, not just now with that first ever #1 ranking, but going further into the year and looking ahead to the postseason.
You mentioned their last season, though, but we have to just say what a turnaround this has been. They finished 10th of 14 in the ACC last year. They had just 6 wins on the year.
Kitahara, can Stanford put something together? We'll try and keep the attack going. Graham, meanwhile, delivering the 8th career hat trick in Duke history. Working again. Here's Groff. Lynch now. All the momentum in favor of the Blue Devils here in front 4-1.
This will be interesting to see what substitutions we get here for the Stanford Cardinal. Looks like it'll be very similar, actually, to what we saw in that first half.
Erica Grillione coming on. We'll see Anaya Harrison, who started, the senior from San Diego. She returns.
Sophie Murdoch, the freshman, who's only had 5 appearances on the year, gets a look.
Defender out of Los Altos, out of St. Francis. So chance here for Paul Ratcliffe to get some fresh bodies in. They'll work it back to Freeman here.
Yeah, that's certainly an interesting move. Sophie Murdoch, the freshman, coming in for Jasmine Ike in that center back role. Obviously, Murdoch hasn't had too many minutes in the game she's seen. She hasn't had more than 20 minutes each time she's gone in. An interesting move there, either to get Jasmine Ike a break, or perhaps Paul Ratcliffe is saying, you're done for the night, let's save you for the next one. Plenty left in the schedule for both of these teams. Robbie Church said the meat of their schedule is coming up, and perhaps it is. You mentioned they go to Cal, and then they're at home against Boston College, Notre Dame, and they finish away. Excuse me, they don't finish away. Then they go away to Wake Forest before they finish away at North Carolina.
Speaking of the Tar Heels, they'll be here on Sunday to take on Stanford, so no easier days ahead for the Cardinal. And you mentioned those changes, and you wonder, too, just with things a little uncertain here for Stanford, down 4-1, trying to get a little energy off the bench, some fresh legs, just someone to try and provide a little spark if they can.
It was interesting. Nia Harrison came off after about 20 minutes in the first half, but we haven't seen her since, playing the first 20 and then essentially the last 20 of the game. Not something you see a lot. Perhaps just a different look wanted from Paul Ratcliffe.
Haas controlling that ball.
Never dare to say that he's given up on this game. I don't think anybody in the Stanford Cardinal would ever. 20 minutes is plenty of time, however big of a deficit it is. You look across the league, though, we just talked about upcoming schedule for Duke. North Carolina's coming here.
Here's Grillione. Grillione brings that ball in the middle. On the ground here, can the Cardinal try and work with it in close quarters? And they'll try and reset. Spread things out wide. Looking to advance. Good navigation there through traffic, but it doesn't get any further.
Scores from around the league. UNC was just at Berkeley. North Carolina won 1-0. Virginia took down North Carolina State 3-0, and Virginia Tech took down SMU. Those were the 3 other games played today across the ACC.
Stanford keeping the attack on here, able to keep the ball in, slipping down there. Still in control. Grillione. Again, having a tough time here getting through this Duke defense here. They've done a nice job of pushing Stanford out to the middle and the side, not letting them get comfortable. Probing that defense, looking for a path through. Freeman, easy gather there.
That's that directness that I mentioned at the beginning of the game at the beginning of this half, that ball in, that's essentially abandoning everything that you want to do. That ball should have come around, you should have swung it around and then tried to move forward and play your attack. That ball into space, that type of ball specifically, is almost never going to work.
Long run here, Walters. Now it's Duke trying to prolong their attack here after playing defense for an extended period. Chico now moves ahead. Oliaro looking for some reinforcements. We'll deal back to Chico out of Wyckoff, New Jersey. Cardinal, meanwhile, play it back, and they go back to Murdoch now, and here comes the next attempt from the Cardinal. Stanford now a little behind on that pass, had to slow down what was a quick developing attack. Now they'll reset it here, push it out far side. In traffic, dealt back out. Here's an attempt, and just put high of the cage from Pagador. Had that for a moment on that left foot, just lifted it. If you're Stanford, Sarah, you expend so much energy initially in this half, and you make that surge only to watch Duke go in front now 4-1. That's got to be so deflating.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, credit to Stanford for not getting deflated when Duke put that third away to go up by 2 again, but then you could really just see the energy fall out of the Stanford Cardinal when that fourth one went in, and understandably so, especially when you've had opportunities. The Cardinal have had plenty of opportunities to be right in this with Duke. 2, 3 of these opportunities could have easily gone in the back of the net, a combination of just that final piece that has never come together yet this season so far for the Stanford Cardinal. And of course, we have to give credit where credit is due, and Freeman in goal for Duke, who's come out big quite a few times with some saves. And I think it's a frustration on both sides where, yes, you're down 4-0, but you feel like you could be in this and you should be in this. And that's really where that frustration comes from. When you're down 4-0 and that team is just a better team than you don't feel that frustration, but the deflation and the frustration, it comes from the fact that the Cardinal know that they could be in this game if a couple of things went a little bit differently.
Here's a try, deflected. But Stanford does not get a second look on that wave, and you're exactly right. That's the hard part for the Cardinal. They have had the moments where it has been close. They have had good looks, just unable to convert, and then they'll look back at the start to this match and say that's just not us. That's not what typically happens here. It also is not what happens at Kagan when you're the Stanford Cardinal. 117, 5, and 10 since the 2014 season. They are also unbeaten in their last 34 straight home matches, so that is very much in jeopardy here with about 15 minutes left in this one.
Absolutely. And I would say, ironically, we spoke with Paul Ratcliffe, head coach of Stanford Cardinal, before this, and he said you actually don't learn a lot from the wins. You learn a lot from the losses. Certainly a lot of learnings will be coming from this for the Stanford Cardinal if this score holds up.
Grillione trying to make something happen there. Able to turn that corner. A little one-on-one. Grillione. Stanford, second effort. A takedown there. And a whistle. Big opportunity coming now for Stanford.
Oh, that's the kind of luck and magic that they wanted 20 minutes ago. But a great job there from the freshman. I believe that was Klinger who drew that foul. And that all started, how many times have we seen Freeman parry that ball, punch that ball away from just a rocket of a shot on that left-hand side from the Stanford Cardinal. She parries it away, and this time the Cardinal are there to scoop it up, and it looks like the Cardinal are going to let her take it. The freshman on the ball.
So Stanford and the freshman from Cleveland, Eleanor Klinger. Again, that ball came down right place, right time. Just inside the edge of the box there, and
I think the refs are going to take a look and just make sure that they feel like they got the correct call. We can take a look, though. Eleanor Klinger, when you look at her believe that this will be the first penalty kick that she will take as a Stanford Cardinal.
And after review, they do confirm
The play results in a penalty.
it is a penalty kick coming up here, and it will be Klinger's opportunity.
Yep, and this is the first penalty kick she'll take in her collegiate career.
Huge, huge chance here to get a quick one back for Stanford with about 15 minutes left. And Klinger against Freeman to make it a 2-goal game. Here comes the freshman. Freeman! What else is new? A stop and controls the second effort. It's been all Leah Freeman tonight.
Well, Freeman read Klinger's hips beautifully, but once again, she punches it out. Klinger gets the rebound, can't bury the rebound either. Now, unfortunately, it looks like Freeman is down, potentially calling for some medical attention. She went down in the first half, and now the athletic trainer will come on, so it seems like something is wrong.
But my goodness, Leah Freeman makes that initial stop. Training staff now on to tend to the 5th year, the transfer from Oregon.
You look at the stats, 8 saves credited tonight to Leah Freeman. That is a huge, huge game. Anything really more than 4 saves for a goalkeeper in a game is considered a massive game, and that is just incredible to have on her stat sheet. That's already pretty full this year. Again, only 4 goals against. She had 19 saves coming into this game. .83 save percentage. More than 8 out of 10 times she's going to save that ball. Season high 5 saves versus UNC. That'll be scrapped tonight. Season high 8 saves.
Training staff just seeing if she can put both arms overhead, going through a few different tests here, but what an effort. Returning to the Bay Area, you couldn't draw it up any better if you're Leah Freeman. Maybe she does it again in Berkeley over the weekend, but to come in here and make all of those close range stops and then 2 denials, the initial PK block and then the follow, and if you're Klinger, obviously the moment gets sped up there. You'd love to try and settle that a bit more and
certainly
take your attack.
I think if you're Paul Ratcliffe, if you're maybe a leader on the Stanford Cardinal team, you want to make sure Klinger doesn't lose the confidence from that one because, listen, no matter who you are, no matter what level it is, missing a penalty kick can really strip you of that confidence. It can make you not want to take one again, and especially for her in her young career, and she's been so good for the Cardinals so far. I mean, the freshman, she played in every single game, gotten 4 starts. She's already got a goal and an assist. She's just everywhere. She was on Top Door Soccer preseason best 11 freshman team midfielder, so you just want to make sure she maintains that confidence.
So Freeman stays on, by the way, and if you're Stanford and you see a penalty kick blocked, you have to start thinking maybe just not our night here. The oddity of getting down 2-0 in the first 5 minutes and then trying to come back in this one, and the PK would have kept the door ajar here with about 15 minutes left. This remains a big deficit now, 4-1, and looking ahead for Grillion, but that's tracked down by Chico.
Absolutely. I mean, it would have been such a help on the score sheet, and also would have been a big help momentum-wise, too. And it does certainly feel that that's just how this day has gone for the Cardinal. Everything's there except for that final piece.
Harvey and Klinger try to control that ball. Now back with the Cardinal again. We're coming up on 80 minutes deep in this one.
Certainly difficult if you're the Stanford Cardinal. There's just a certain amount of expectations that I think everybody has, that not just the team have for themselves, that the fans have for them, that the world of college soccer has for them. And it does make losses like this perhaps feel bigger than they need to feel, right? There's still plenty of ACC play left. They've got 4 games, and they're going to close it out actually against Cal at home. Cal's sitting pretty close to them in the standings. That could be a big game in terms of where everybody finishes. Yes, of course, you want to finish in the top 6. You want to make that ACC tournament. Ideally, of course, you want to finish either 1, 2, 3, or 4, because that means, well, 3 or 4, because that means you get to host a game. Or if you're 1 or 2, you get to have a bye week. But at the end of the day, this is such a strong conference. There's still a chance if you don't make the ACC tournament that you'll make the NCAA tournament. Obviously, nobody wants to fall back on that, but it's just the big picture that you have to look at when you're a team like this with expectations that they have. to just make sure you don't take a loss like this to mean more than it really needs to mean.
It's hard when you think back to last season. You make it all the way to the final, fall there. That's the expectation, especially what has happened under the tutelage of Coach Ratcliffe. When you've won those national titles, you've become this elite program. There's just big expectations. Cardinal champs in 2011, 17, 19, 11 College Cup appearances. That's all under Paul Ratcliffe in season 22. And so once you start building that sort of resume, the expectations are to do it every year, to be in that hunt for a national championship. And so days like this, they don't come along very, very often. But as you noted, this will be quite the learning experience, something for the Cardinal to kind of reboot from. As here's the free kick try, and that goes high and away.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, making the tournament is the expectation, right? The last time the Stanford Cardinal didn't make the NCAA tournament was 1997. It's a 25-year streak right now. So the expectation is that you don't just make the tournament, you make it far, but baseline, you're going to the tournament. And in this new conference, every game is a battle. Every game is a tough game. Last year, take a look at ACC. In the NCAAs, 5 ACC teams made the NCAA tournament last year. FSU, who ended up, of course, beating the Stanford Cardinal in the final. Clemson, Notre Dame, UNC, and Pitt.
Duke taking control here again for the moment. Stanford, again, opportunities. I mentioned the penalty kick, a few other looks as Lumi Kostmeyer now tries to get out in front of that ball. Just couldn't get the sustained attack. They had such a furious start to this second half, and when no goal broke through there, I wonder too, that has to ding the confidence a little bit because they had so many good looks there early on, couldn't break through there, and then most recently the penalty kick. These are just some of those moments where you have to shake your head and say the things that normally work for us, they just aren't working right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That would have changed the course of the game, of course, if one of those in the early minutes of that second half had gone in for the Cardinal, score sheet-wise and momentum-wise. But on the other hand, this Duke Blue Devils offense was never going to relent. And we had a feeling when the second half started that we were going to see at least one more goal. We didn't know what side it was going to come from, but we knew that we were going to see more goals, and partly because this Duke Blue Devils offense just will not stop. And the way they move the ball around this field, the way they work together, the speed that they have up front, they're just such a dangerous attack.
Now less than 10 minutes to go in this one, so barring something completely unforeseen, Duke on their way to a pretty special victory here on the road. This would be their first ever win at Stanford in program history.
Certainly is potentially one of those seasons for Duke where they're just checking off some boxes. First win at North Carolina, first time they beat them at home, and now they come into Kagan Stadium and in their minds really write the script from what happened last year when they lost by 4 goals. Sometimes when teams click, you can't quite describe it. It's just the intangibles. It's just a matter of these players working really well together. And so many teams that win a championship, there's just that piece that you can't really describe, you can't put your finger on, but they play so well as a team, and that's what you're seeing here from these Duke Blue Devils. Whether that means they're going to win a championship, that's not what I'm saying, but they're certainly playing like they're on their way to one.
No, just looking at what you've seen thus far and then what you've seen tonight, and again, we haven't spent a whole lot of time around this team, given they're based in North Carolina, but you do get the sense something special in the works here with this Duke team in 2024.
You know, anytime you get a team that loses 4 key players, key contributors that early on to just devastating injuries. First of all, injuries devastating no matter what, but that's a pretty good way for a team to just say, okay, well, that's the season. You know, we'll do our best, but let's move it forward. And instead, this Duke team it's been the next person up off the bench, and that next person has been contributing so much. And we heard their head coach, Robbie Church, say, hey, maybe the depth will get to us. It seems like that bench is just as deep as it could ever go, because when a team is playing like this, everybody feels compelled to then step on the field and play their best soccer, and they have the confidence that they're going to be able to do so.
Just about 6 minutes left here. Stanford sending this one out of play. Again, a 4-1 lead for Duke. The story in this one, a hat trick for Maggie Graham. 8 goals now on the year. She scores 2 of those 14 seconds apart in the opening few minutes of play in the first half. Builds a 2-0 lead. That's more offense than Stanford's allowed all year in any one match. And from there, Cardinal do get one back, but then the Blue Devils have answers in this second half. One more look here, perhaps for Duke, and that's deflected on the attack there from Mia Minestrella, the sophomore.
Well, Haley Craig really didn't have a chance at them. It was not a breakdown in goal by Haley Craig, who's been having a fantastic season and I think continues to through tonight. It was just an all-around breakdown of the team and the defense for the Cardinal, and she happened to be that last defender.
No, these were not long-range strikes that caught her out of position or not paying attention. Very, very difficult for even the most elite keeper to stop. These are shots right in front. Very, very difficult. And Duke just kept the pressure up. Grillione now. They've looked for her in this second half. Tries to turn the corner, but good pursuit there from Sam Bodensteiner, the sophomore from Illinois who's come on. Chance now for Robbie Church to get some of his reserves on as well in these final minutes.
Sometimes this is how teams keep winning late in the season. Teams that are winning will keep winning because they get to have moments like these. I mentioned how against Louisville, Duke's previous game, only 2 starters played the full 90. Most of them played half the game. And when you get that rest, because at this point in the season, legs are starting to get heavy, games are starting to build, minutes are starting to build, and the more rest you can get, the deeper into the season you can go. And it's games like these where you can get those subs, and that's partly why you're seeing a lot of substitutions here for the Stanford Cardinal too. The less minutes that you can have on your key players, the better.
You mentioned the win over Louisville, 3-1 victory there. 4 goals tonight. That's the stat too that you just have to keep thinking about. Offense. They have already doubled their tally from a season ago. 15 goals last year. They're now up to 36 this season in this game 11. And all the more remarkable with some of their top players out for the season. Little run here, looking for Minestrella. Stanford tries to take control. B-Bar able to wrestle that one back and deals back to Freeman.
Now, assuming this scoreline holds, or not even scoreline, assuming that this holds and Duke does get the victory, that puts them at 15 points in the ACC standings. That puts them in 3rd place, so they'll jump from 4th to 3rd, puts them just 1 point behind Virginia Tech and just 3 points behind University of North Carolina. But Duke has played fewer games than both of them. They have actually a game in hand on North Carolina and 2 games in hand on Virginia. So you think about what those 2 games are, and if they can get 3 points from both of those games, that puts them in 1st in the ACC.
And you highlighted the standings earlier and just how competitive it is, how competitive it will be over the next several weeks, moving towards the conference tourney. A lot of scoreboard watching coming up here over the next few weeks.
Absolutely. And for those Stanford Cardinal fans who are only used to the Pac-12, how that ACC tournament works, mentioned the top 6 teams make the tournament. Top 2 get a bye, and then 3 and 4 will host in their home stadiums. 3 will host 6, and 4 will host 5. And then the winner of those will go on and play the 1 and 2 seed. And the semifinal and final will both be at a neutral spot, already determined. I believe that'll be in Cary, North Carolina.
So saves a little on travel there for some of the early matches in that tourney. Well, this one lifted out of play. Charlotte Kohler, we haven't gotten a chance to talk about her much this evening, but the freshman from nearby Woodside having an excellent freshman campaign. Couple of game winners already on the year, and going to be a pivotal part of what they do the rest of the way and also in years to come.
Oh, yeah, 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year in high school for California. There's a Gatorade Player of the Year for each state. So each state gets one Gatorade Player of the Year, and she won it twice in California of all states for the record, and that's saying something. She did not start in the first ever game for the Stanford Cardinal. They went to University of San Francisco. They went to USF. She came off the bench, and since then she started every single game. She just played her way into this starting lineup outright, and as a freshman, that's pretty impressive on the Stanford Cardinal team.
Yeah, this game full of some Gatorade State Players of the Year around the country. That's what happens when you have two programs that are recruiting the very best athletes. As we're into the final 20 seconds here in a night that does not happen very often for Stanford. This is an evening in which they allow 4 goals. That's tied for the most in a home loss going back to the 80s for Stanford, and it snaps their win streak, their unbeaten streak here at home as #1 holds serve the Blue Devils for the first time winning on the farm. The #1 team in the land for the first time in their program's history improved to 10-1 overall, 5-0